Good morning, traders. If you're from South Africa, welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to be doing a midweek market breakdown, as you've seen by the title. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get straight into it. We're going to start by looking at USDJPY. And oh, by the way, if you hear a bit of background noise, that's because my neighbor is doing his renovations. So try not to pay attention to that. But anyways, we are here, right? And we're seeing that the market is slowly but surely breaking out of this. Last time we saw this, I was expecting a movement to the downside, and I think we got it for the first few days, but then price kept on pushing high, right? Now, we have this, let's consider this area an area of opposing supply, right? We should know by now that price is eventually going to break this level. Why? Because it's been playing too much on this area of supply. Already we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And this congested price action over here. So we know with congested price action that price tends to break through those levels, right? Now, the one thing that we should take into consideration also is the fact that that zone hasn't been broken through yet. So although it's not a good area to trade from, although we're expecting a breakout from it, that does not necessarily give us permission to take a trade in the opposite direction, right? Remember, as retail traders, we always work with confirmations to minimize our risk. Another way of minimizing your losses is taking trades that are high probability and not assuming. And how do you take trades that are high probability? You wait for confirmations. Even if you miss out on the move, as long as you waited, you'll be fine, right? So yeah, in the long run, I see price going up, but this is the monthly. What's happening on the weekly? If you go to the weekly, last time we took the trade here, got a few pips, but then price got rejected here and then started moving up, right? So for now, I think it's safe to say that I'm no longer bearish, but bullish on USDJPY, right? But simply put, what I'm waiting for is just a strong, impulsive candlestick to confirm a spread to the upside. So our new high is this one. If you can check, the uptrend was still intact because no low was violated. This low was higher than this low. This high is higher than this high. We just have to break through this high over here. Get what I mean? So on USDJPY, I've changed my sentiment to bullish, and yeah, we'll see in a matter of weeks what happens. Right, if you go to the daily, this is where we are today, right? We have this opposing supply, and the market is slowly but surely coming to that level. Meaning that if, say, for example, that higher time frame supply holds because it's still in control, if it holds, we're going to wait for a breakout from this trend line, right? Because it's going to be forming a WOW pattern. Remember, I spoke about those in early breakdowns. And yeah, if we do get a breakout, we're going to wait for a break from this candlestick. But then we're going to be taking profits on this opposing area of supply, right? What happens when the market gets there, that's a story for another time. But yeah, so far so good. Let's move on to CADJPY. So on CADJPY, I was expecting a movement to the downside, a drop to the downside, which obviously failed, as you can see with this trade that hit take profit. So we were the liquidity in this instance where the market printed a false movement outside, and then as soon as people traded the breakout retest, price then moved in the opposite direction. We see that the market is trying to push up. I think right now, what I'm just wondering is if price will move up, hit this high, and then go down, if price is going to move or break out eventually. Remember, on the weekly, we saw that there was congested price action on this area of supply, right? I don't have to go through the entire analysis because we've already looked at it. But yeah, remember, there's this congested price action. And with this congested price action, what we're seeing right now is bullish pressure on that area. Remember, when the market retests an area or a significant area for too long, that significant area eventually gets broken through. Now, we can't take the buy, even though we can see that there's bullish pressure. Why? Because this demand, or the supply area rather, is still in control. So what we should wait for is a breakout from this area of supply before we can take this trade, right? But I'm no longer bullish. I'm no longer bearish unless I can see that price is retesting that high, failing to break above it, and breaks this area of this. Because I think this could be an induction. An induction just simply means that price prints a small move, or price prints a fake move in order to lure retail traders into trading into that direction. And as soon as price generates enough liquidity, or as soon as the market generates enough liquidity, price then moves in an opposite direction. So in the context of what we are seeing right now, what could happen is price could be generating a false uptrend, getting retail traders hyped about the uptrend, buying into it. And as soon as it's generated enough liquidity, it can reverse. But that's only if, that can only hold if we get a strong push to the downside. Apart from that, this could continue to go up. You get what I mean? So that sums up my sentiment on CADJPY. The fact that this could be either an induction or simply just price gaining momentum, accumulating orders to move to the opposite direction. But we already know what the main time frame is saying with regards to the trend. We already know where we are in the market in terms of supply and demand curves. We're in an area where sales are high probability. And remember, determining whether price or whether an area of supply and demand is in control or not is very different from telling whether or not it's tradable. So the market being in control and tradability are two different chats, are two different conversations. And for an area to be tradable, it has to have less than 3 retests, for example. But for an area to be controlled, all you need is a recent retest on that area. So regardless of how used up the supply level is, we already know that it's still in control. Why? It hasn't been broken through. You get what I mean? So supply is still in control, although we're in a long-term uptrend, and we're in a seller's territory in terms of the supply and demand control. So that's why, given this context, if price still holds, if supply still holds, we should be looking for sales. Yeah, let's move on to another pair. So I remember going back and forth on this pair in a sense that first time I said it was going to be bullish, right? No, first time I said it's going to sell, right? Because this area of demand hasn't broken through any previous structure, right? And then the week came where we got the strong push, and I said, I think it's going to sell. But I think for now, the evidence suggests that the first bias is the one that was correct, because it's still like this congested price action right here. And we all know what happens with congested price action at a significant area. So let me just adjust this. So right now, I'm just waiting for a full-blown breakout from this demand box. And as soon as we get to fill in this inefficiency. So right now, the evidence is suggesting that we should get a drop to the downside. Let's go to the lower time frames. On lower time frames, it's the same thing. On lower time frames, it's the same thing, where we're playing too much on this area, right? This is supposed to be a liquidity grab, but right now we have, there is sell pressure. So just to make this look a bit cleaner, our opposing area is right here, right? This yellow zone. What I'm waiting for is a strong breakout from that, a retest to an order block, and then a drop, right? Another form of confirmation is the fact that we've been breaking lows, creating new lows and new lower highs, right? Since this price over here, the 16.5 region, right? So we've been in a downtrend. So this could be a continuation of this downtrend. But yeah, these are my sentiments on USDZAR, right? AUDCAD, we're currently on a losing trade. The market took liquidity from this area, right? And now we got a rejection over here, but since the beginning of this week, price has been pushing up, trying to fill in this wick, right? So according to me, I think prices may be approaching this area of supply, right? And if it reacts well from it, we should be taking the sell. You want to know why? Because the state of demand hasn't been confirmed, right? Not only that, the fact that we've been creating lower highs, right? So really, for the reversal to be confirmed, price has to break through this area over here. The supply, not the trend line, the supply, right? The high is a potential area of liquidity, meaning that even if the market breaks through it, it will need to break another opposing supply, at least one, right? It's an area of liquidity because it's a high. So at least break through this and break through this, and then I'll believe that we're in a reversal, right? So that's scenario number one. Scenario number two is that price pushes up to this area and then we get a drop like we anticipated. You get what I mean? So those are the two scenarios on AUD CAD. Let's go to the daily and see what's happening. So as you can see right here, I was expecting, let me not include you guys. I was expecting a drop to the downside because of this trend line over here. But from what we are seeing right now, I think price is moving up. And hence why I took the L on this. Hence why I took the L. So for me personally, it's either two zones. It's either this zone over here is going to get properly retested, right? This zone over here, or this zone over here. So right now, I took the L. I think price will try to push to upside one more time, but right now, I think we sold a bit too early, right? Simply because of this path three, right? This low, low, low. I think price will push higher. So I'm gonna place a limit order here, and then my take profit here at this low. And then net for precaution here, I'm gonna wait. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's a nested zone. And it's also never been confirmed. Never been retested. So there's still a high probability that we'll get a solid opportunity from that zone. Get what I mean? But the sell that I was in beginning of the week, I'm out. Let's move on to, let me do this. Let's move on to AUDUSD. Same thing here. I think I was expecting a sell from this region over here, but price, if you're looking at it the way I'm looking at it, price looks like it's making its way to the upside, right? So this is the first, or this is the higher low. It's what I've spoken about. So we have an induction. And after an induction, we have a reversal, and then we have a strong impulse. So what could be happening now is that the market could be fetching orders from retail traders, in a sense that it's creating this false new trend, which is the uptrend, and going into its levels, right? And then after going into those levels, taking out the orders, right? So that's what I think is happening. Also, you should consider the fact that there's liquidity over here. You get what I mean? There's liquidity here. So buy stop liquidity. My bias hasn't changed. What has changed is where I think we're gonna get the orders. You get what I mean? If this fails, then I'm gonna wait for confirmation for the buy. But yeah, this is nested within a weekly zone, right? This is nested within a weekly zone, of which maybe it can also adjust. So now we are on AUDUSD, and I think the market is going to break through this level, right? This is where we initially had our trade, and similar to AUDCAD, we're taking L's, basically. So what I was saying before I got cut out was the fact that I think we're in a induction phase where the market is creating this new small trend just to get retail traders to buy. As soon as that happens, we're going to tap into an area of liquidity. And then if we get liquidity, right, we're going to get a drop to the downside. So that's area number one. An area that's confirmed that will yield high probability trades is probably this one right here, because it's a nested zone. And it's never been retested, right? And then we have this opposing zone over here, which is a level on a level, and it's been tested once. So similarly to AUDCAD, I haven't changed my entire outlook on it. What I've changed though is where I plan on taking the trade. You get what I mean? So what you should do in the meantime, should you buy? What should you do? I'm seeing buy opportunities. As you can see right here, we had this failure swing and this break to the upside, right? And then price is now moving up. The only barrier really is this zone over here. And if, say, the market breaks through the zone, of which I think it will, you can now take your buy. Right, obviously I expect the usual, obviously I expect the market to grab liquidity here. So this is an area of potential liquidity because it's a high, right? And then after that, after grabbing the liquidity, I expect a return to an order block, which is this one. And then you should probably buy, right? As you can see, high, this is a higher low, right? It's a risky setup, yes, I know, but then it's the one that I see, right? So this can be interpreted as a correction, right? Here we had a failure swing, meaning that price, this small trend, the small downtrend has already been violated. Let's get that out of the way. This trend over here, this downtrend over here has already been violated, which is why I said it could be a correction, right? So now on a lower time frame, we're in a uptrend approaching opposing levels. So it's only fair that you take advantage of these opportunities. If we go back to AUDCAD, you could do the same thing, right? We had this breaker over here, and I think it will be much more clear if you look at the 1 hour. We had this breaker over here, and then this breaker structure over here, and now the market just created a new high over here. So we could get a grab of liquidity somewhere. But what I do know is that the market could return to an order block, this order block over here, depending on how the day reacts, obviously. This is not like a signal. We should wait for confirmations. But then this is an idea of what could happen. You get what I mean? So we could get a movement like this. And then similar to AUDUSD, get a push to the upside, right? But you don't want to hold on to losing trades. This was supposed to be our buy signal, but as you can see, it's not behaving accordingly. And I think the only justification people have for holding this is this right here. Now, don't I think price will play below? And this should be another like thing that you should be looking out for. If, say, for example, this was a trend and this is a correction, classical scenario of this uptrend, breakout, and then a pattern. This movement here should have been strong. You get what I mean? This movement here should have been a strong 1 or 2 momentum candlesticks, but it's not. And now we're about to grab liquidity here. The same thing could be true for AUDCHF. I don't know. But yeah, guys, that's what I see. Let me know what you think. See you again this Sunday. Peace.